Welcome, Mitakshara, and welcome the viewers.
Thank you, sir.
So, I'm happy to present Mitakshara Shigaonkar to all of you. She's expert in project management. She's also into NLP, soft skill training, and very passionate about terrorism. So here you are, and I think people want to listen to you. So I'm not going to take a lot of time. I want you to share a lot about you while you are talking about the subject today. I find the topic today very interesting because what it says is how can you use project management principles into L&D space. I think it is a unique topic. No one has really touched it in depth the way I'm expecting you to do it. So over to you, and all of us are eager to listen to you.
Sure, Lisa. First of all, Mr. Arun Chaklankia, thank you so much for bringing me on this forum here. I would like to tell all our listeners and viewers who watch this video later on that I have been a part of Association of Trainers, fondly known as AOT, since 2019. I remember I'm meeting Mr. Arun Chaklankia spontaneously, and I got a contact from somebody, and I contacted him, and he said that, hey, we are meeting, why don't you join us? And that at that very instant I became a part of this group. And I must say that this group has really given me a lot of learning and also some opportunities. So very quick background about myself. I've been into this field of consulting, project management, training, a little bit of coaching, which I'm now growing for the working professionals and business owners and all. And of course, I couple it with tarot, NLP, and management principles. I've been doing this independently since the past 5 years. But the whole essence of project management within me comes from my work experience with the pharmaceutical field till 2018. And the reason why I'm really putting in my passion and energy towards this session today is because when I was working as a project manager, I realized that every work, every kind of task, or every assignment that you do, whether it is considered to be a classical project or not, it can still be considered. We can look at it as a mini project. And if we try to understand different concepts of project management and try to apply it to anything that we do, we can definitely make it successful rather than spreading our energy and efforts all around. I remember I had touched upon these points long back during the COVID times when we were online. But again, today, in this session today, I would like to bring some new concepts, some new findings, and some new insights and my experiences to light. Okay, so just to reiterate, the topic for today is use of project management concepts for anyone in the learning and development field, so that we can try and make our training deliveries more effective. And this is specifically more useful for all freelance trainers, all freelance facilitators who are just out in the field. And I sincerely hope that they can take something out of this session to uh, be a bit careful and try to apply in to whichever clients they can offer to. Okay, so with your permission, sir, I'm starting my screen right now. Just a moment. Can you let me share my screen? In the meanwhile, hi, welcome, Maya. It's been a while since we spoke to each other. How have you been?
Fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't be on camera right now.
Nah, that's okay. That's okay. And while my screen sharing is enabled till now, I would like to share that today it's not just about me talking, but I would also like to have the views of whoever joins in today for our live meeting here. Because like me, there are many people who have had experiences. We have learned from our experiences. So yes, I look forward to even listening to other people. And we have someone else joining in, Mr. Bhavik. Hi, Mr. Bhavik.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, I am outside, so that's why I just switch off my video. So yeah,
Okay. Sir, can I share my screen now?
I'm trying, but I'm unable to do that.
Okay,
Uh,
no worries.
I'm still trying.
Okay, nonetheless, for whoever is present right now, let me ask a few questions to all of you, Maya and Bhavik here. So I would like to ask you, being freelance trainers or as working professionals in this field of learning and development, what are the key challenges that you have faced till now, and which is the most burning challenge that you can talk about?
Onboarding new clients.
Onboarding new clients. Okay. So, Maya, are you just a freelancer like me, or do you own a company where you are working with other trainers as well?
I'm doing both. I myself jumped back into training after a gap of many years
Mm-hmm.
as a corporate trainer, and I also have a team of trainers who take care of basic communications and English speaking. So I myself will also a trainer, business communication.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maya. Yes, Bhavik, what about you?
I think the same problem for me. So onboarding new clients or new uh, uh, any companies and assignments. Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. So,
Arun sir, sorry, Mitakshara, can I just interrupt? Arun
yes,
sir, can
please.
you make Mitakshara the host? Once you make her the host, she'll be able to share the screen.
Done.
Yeah.
Done?
Once-
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Perfect. Now I can. All right. So yes, this is the topic for today: project management concepts for learning for the learning and development field. Now, like we said, Maya and Bhavik, they had mentioned about their key pain points about onboarding new clients and ensuring that everything goes on smoothly and all. So yes, that is a basic, fundamental problem for all the trainers because there is a lot of negotiations which go on. And as we know that a lot many people do make inquiries for the learning and development programs, but as per the funnel, you can say many programs do not really end up successfully there, and some of them even don't start. But anyways, that's usually the case where we've been told. I was a student of marketing back when I was doing PGDM, and we were told that out of 100 clients that you approach, maybe 10 will turn out to be successful, and that's the rule of the game. But today's topic is that once when we are actually coming through, when we are actually getting deeper into the client queries, how do we really make sure that our program will be a complete successfully, like completed successfully? So with that, I'm just about to share with you some key pain points here. Just a minute. Yeah. So first of all, looking at trainers' pain points, obviously there is uncertainty. Then we are not getting sufficient feedback from the contract givers. Requirements sometimes are not quite clear because that is the most important thing. If our requirements are not clear, we definitely end up into the content which is not suitable to the purpose of the program. And sometimes there's lack of support from the contract givers. Sometimes there's a huge gap in the different stakeholders who are present at the customer's end. Financial considerations continue to be the pain points here. And of course, last but not least, the communication gaps which may occur. Now, all these things together can end up creating a huge burden on the trainer. And last but not least, over here, there is a problem where you can see that there is a crucial time that is being wasted. And I always say, as a person who has been into operational productivity, mentoring sessions for business owners, as a person who has been into project management, I always keep on saying that time is a most important resource. And that time can never come back once when it is past. See, it's not like any loss in a business that can be recovered later on. Time is the only resource which can never come back, and that's the reason why I always stress upon one point, that to ensure that we do not end up losing out on our productivity here, on our personal productivity. it is always necessary to structure our things in a proper place. Now, while I move to the next slide, any points on these things from the audience out here? Do you think you have been facing these kind of challenges as well, apart from those which were mentioned earlier?
Yes, yes.
True. Yes, Bhavik, absolutely. So coming to the next slide here, I would like to tell you that every project has a start and an end. And how does it translate to any learning and development assignment? Obviously, there is a start where we start getting the client inquiries. It will have to be planned in a proper way in which you try to understand the requirements, you try to understand the client's backgrounds, you try to understand the participant profiles, and based on that, it is a duty of the trainer to plan everything, and mostly it goes into the content making, designing the flow of the session, designing the agenda, and depending upon whether it is an outbound training, whether it is a classroom training session, whether it is an online session, we have to very well craft our flow together because, like Mr. Arun has been telling us through his train the trainer sessions, that the content has to be designed according to the way in which the training program will be delivered. If it is online, the kind of exercises will be different. If it is on site, the kind of activities will have to be designed in such a way. So that goes on in planning. Next is obviously the execution, where we are actually doing the delivery on site on or at that particular time slot. And lastly, it is a closure. That is, we wrap up the assignment that is being given to us. We take the feedbacks, and of course, if it is mentioned specifically by the client that post training there will be an assessment for multiple reasons. If it is a soft skill session, then we try to monitor the progress of the participants to check the effectiveness, or to check how effectively they have understood the topic. And of course, if it is going to be some productivity or a leadership program, then the assessment measurement can go on for several months. And while everything is happening, right from the time you get your client query till the time you wrap up, there is something that we need to do, that we need to adapt as per the client requirements. We have to clearly understand their changes, which they may have translated to us. And accordingly, we will have to keep on changing our style in an agile fashion. And this is to suit the situation and the audience, right? So the project life cycle, which I'm referring to here, has been drafted by the Project Management Institute USA. It says that the project management life cycle is divided into 5 phases. That is the initiation, the planning, the execution, the closure. And while this is happening, there is a monitoring and controlling which continuously keeps on happening right from the time you start till the time you finish. And of course, till the time you hand it over. Now, at every single stage of this, we will be facing challenges. So the points which were made some time back, that onboarding new clients, that itself is a very big challenge in the initiation stage, because multiple clients come, they have unclear requirements. They will have definitely a huge list of requirements, out of which even possibly they don't know why they want it. So we as trainers need to put on our coaching hats and ask the question, why are we doing this? Because the first thing that we need to do is define the purpose, define the goal of the learning and development assignment that is going to come to us. Of course, coming on to the next stage, when we are planning the content, there is going to be a major challenge where, while planning, if we are constantly getting newer requests, we will have to decide when to really draw that line and tell them that, okay, fine, now please decide what you want, because our content making can really be altered several times. And of course, there is a loss of time in that. The third stage, that is execution. Now here, there are different set of challenges out here. What happens? I'm sure most of this kind of situation has been faced by multiple trainers out here, that we have been given a particular brief. We have been told that we will be delivering our session to a certain type of audience. But there is a huge surprise waiting for us, that we end up talking to a different set of participants. The participant profile is completely different. Now tell me, how many of us have actually faced this issue? That we've been told that the thing would be for freshers, whereas senior people turn up, or vice versa.
Happened many times it has happened.
Multiple times. Yes. Yes, Bhavik. Yes, Dhaval. Yes, Maya. Have you faced this before?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. And last but not least, during the closure, that is one major point where all our trainers will be literally having palpitations in their heart, because now it's a time for feedback. How did you like it? Was the training effective? Yes. Now, when I was a young trainer, I mean, when I say young trainer, a couple of years back, I used to literally feel nervous at this stage, no matter how effectively I've delivered, because ultimately it is the people who are going to give you the feedback. And I have also got this kind of insight from multiple other trainers, that some participants, some contract givers, some clients will actually end up saying that, hey, we did not like this program. This program just was not suitable to what we expected, right? Now, let me ask you one thing. Why is all this happening? What could be the reason why this particular feedback could be received by the trainers from the clients? Do you think there could be some gaps which were not addressed before? Or do you think the client did not give us the right information about who would be sitting for the sessions? Or there were certain requirements which were to be met before the training initiated? It could be multiple reasons, right?
So
And
in
that is
my view,
exactly.
Mita, many times what happens is that with all good intention, HR is HR. They're not always in the line business. So sometimes they may not be aware, and lack of information or misinformation may happen. And this yes, we have to face this.
Absolutely. And that is exactly where we as learning and development people in this field, whether we are trainers, whether we are coaches, whether we are facilitators, we have to pay attention to this monitoring and controlling phase, where we have to keep on asking the questions and keep on verifying that, hey, this is how we are going. Are we online? If not, please let us know right now, so that we can make those adaptations according to your requirements, right? And with this, let me share with you one particular experience that I just had right now. And of course, this particular session that I conducted recently had brought me some pretty good feedback. But some surprises were waiting for me. I never knew that there were some super senior people also going to be present in my training session. Of course, this client was pretty good. It did not really create any problems in my session completion. But definitely, every training program does give us some sort of learning lessons, right? So the brief that was given to me, that I should be delivering training sessions to this training session for 6 hours to a group of people who should be using project management concepts to ensure better delivery of their work, to improve the productivity. Now, the first challenge was obviously, but that challenge was known, so I could mitigate that well in advance. That I was supposed to give project management workshop session to the people who were not into classical projects. They were completely into the manufacturing operations. So obviously, I had to modulate my thing, because if I did my training program just the way I would do it for a PMP based structure, obviously they wouldn't be able to relate to it. So I had to adapt this thing completely as per their requirements. So that made me first study the company profile, understand even the industrial sector in which they operate into, right? Making the content flow, designing the whole agenda was not really a big challenge for me. But during execution, just one day prior, the client asked me that, hey, you know what? Our conference room is not going to be available for the first half. So will you be able to continue it in some other common sitting area in our office? I said, let's do it. Let the audience feel comfortable. I will be able to do it anyhow. So this was one thing that sometimes we as trainers might have some sort of idea that, hey, we will be given a conference room, we'll be given some proper training and development room. But as a trainer, at that time I realized that no matter where we are expected to speak, if we are thorough with our content, and if we are able to keep our participants engaged, then it doesn't matter whether it is the garden in which you are sitting, whether it is a common lobby where you have to present, whether it's a cafeteria, whether it's a common game room, or it's a conference room. So this is one fun experience I had during the delivery. That was the execution stage. And of course, while closure also, I had some feedback that the people who were there, they were expecting some higher level concepts. But obviously, a year I took the feedback. It was a learning lesson for me as well. That if something like this happens, then at least we should have our toolkit ready. We should have our arsenal ready so that if they give the feedback that time, we can quickly shift our content to something else by taking the common consensus of the audience. So this was about the project life cycle. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the key 10 elements of project management, which we typically consider while designing any project. And let us discuss as to how these will be applicable in our learning and development field. Okay, are we ready? Can I move forward?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so now coming to the different elements, the first and the foremost thing that we should consider is the stakeholders. Now, in common projects, stakeholders are all those entities who will be impacting our project either in a positive or a negative way, and some of them also get impacted. So, from the training perspective, who will be our stakeholders? The first is the learning and development managers who are creating that need, who are coming up with that requirement about a certain training program. Second would be the contract givers, because they will be the ones who will be signing off on our commercials, on our agreed rates for the development, for the training and development program. And last but not the least, the very important stakeholder group is the audience, the participants. Eventually, it is their feedback which matters, along with the feedback of learning and development managers. I'm sorry, because what happens is if there is a conflict between these three stakeholder groups, then we as a trainer, we as a facilitator will always face the heat. Now, let me ask you, how many people have faced this before? That there is a conflict between the L&D managers, they are coming up with a requirement. The contract givers have some different idea, where the audience, they have a very complete different picture as to what's happening. Anybody?
Yes, happens sometimes. Yeah.
So this is happening not just for those one-day workshops, but even in some longer duration programs where we as facilitators or training managers or as trainers would be having a contract with. And this is something which I've heard from a couple of friends, that they have been assigned a particular contract, a particular program through a contract, where according to the contract, the roles and responsibilities are clearly mentioned, but that is from a third party, whereas the client is completely different. The client's audiences are completely different. And there is where the constant feedback, which often is not that positive, creates a very heavy burden on the training and development people. And that is where identify the first identification of the stakeholders is important, and then asking the right questions equally is important so that we can put things on the paper. Yes, Mr. Arun, you've raised a hand.
I want to ask you here that in case where the expectations are different from different groups, as you explained, then how to align it? What a trainer should do in that case?
So I strongly believe that the training needs and analysis has to be rock solid here, where we obviously have to create that kind of urgency or that kind of necessity, where the main person who's giving the contract or who's expecting us to design the content flow, their word has to be taken into consideration. because eventually the audience, they are going to be giving us the feedback definitely, but it is the contract givers whose feedback also matters a lot. Because if they have a negative feedback, then obviously there's a very less chance that we could get a repeat inquiry from the customer, right? So here I feel that to the extent possible, try to engage with all the three groups. If that is not possible, at least ensure that at least two of these people are present in the TNA meeting so that both their expectations are aligned. And this has happened with me in one of the pre-training pre-contract phase. I should say I was introduced by some person who is acting as an ad hoc HR in that company. Then there was a person who was looking after all the learning and development activities, and that person, they were also the executive assistant to the CEO. And then there was one group head who wanted this kind of arrangement. What I noticed is that in the pre discussion meeting, I observed that there was a lot of conflict going on between those three people at the client's end. And I, as a prospective trainer, had nothing much to say because all I could do is just observe. All I had to do is just let out questions about the why, the purpose, the goal, and for whom are we delivering this. So at least these three questions should be a must. And of course, no matter what we do, it's rare that we will have all the answers 100% correct. But at least this is something that we can do. Now, coming to the stakeholders, if we are trying to crack this, and if we are successful in this, then comes the later part, that is the scope, in which obviously once when our requirements from the different stakeholders and their expectations are understood, there is where our scope can be crafted well, where of course it is the contents, it is the agenda, it is the activities that we will be undertaking. And the contents obviously will be defined according to the nature of the topic. Now, for example, let's consider a very common topic where it's a common essential topic called the soft skills. Now, Maya, I would like to have your inputs on this, right? If we are talking about soft skills for freshers, and if we are talking about the soft skills which are required for the leadership people,
Right.
I'm sure there is going to be a vast difference, isn't it?
Yes.
So obviously, we need to understand who are we going to talk to. And that's why
Absolutely.
if we don't have
Absolutely.
the clarity on audience, we don't get to know whether we are supposed to teach them basic communication skills, or are we supposed to talk a little bit about the soft skills from the behavioral angle. Would like to have your experience in this.
Absolutely. And it's so much necessary that, even you can't design your training program, can't design the flow without having these inputs. In fact, leadership, of course, leadership team on availability, but junior team, I would like to interact with them, have a conversation with them, understand what are their pain points, what are their challenges, and also take a feedback from their line managers and also from HR. So usually what I do is three-way approach. I take one first input I take it from the HR, and then I go to the line managers, and then I go to the participants, the nominated participants. I talk to them and then have a conversation with them, understand the challenges, and when I combine all these three inputs, and then I'd make a design for conducting the training. Yeah, that's what
Fantastic.
I think that needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, coming to something which is technical like project management. This is coming with even more challenges because obviously if I'm talking to a group of freshers, the way I would deliver project management would be slightly more in a textbook format, of course by giving them a lot of examples like the college event which they may have participated or led in their group. Yeah, or it could be a simple construction of maybe a mall or a residential complex which is happening in their vicinity. So I try to pull their own experiences, try to pull their own insights using this. But if I'm delivering project management concepts to something to a group who is experienced, who is actually handling projects, then obviously it will be more of facilitation where we will be expecting them, we will be pulling them into the conversation and making them a part of this learning and development experience, right? Not only that, depending upon the type of the structure of the organization, I have to modulate my contents. Because if I'm going to talk about project management to an organization, in an organization, to a group of people where there is no project management department at all, then I cannot talk about something where project management, how empowering it is, because it will be a complete misalignment, right? So there is where the scope, agenda, everything can be understood only after the first thing, that is your stakeholders have been understood well, right? I'm sure in multiple examples in multiple types of trainings, whether it is financial training, whether it is lean six sigma, whether it is kaizen, whether it is sales, in any field, I'm sure the first thing starts with your stakeholders. The first set of discussion starts with understanding of stakeholders. Now coming to the third element, that is a procurement, where we are referring to the resources. It starts with everything. Whether we as a training company, if we are a training company, are we going to book the venue, and are we going to make all the arrangements right, from the seating to the props to the food and refreshments and everything? That also is important. Now if we are freelance trainers, or if we as companies are only going on site on the client's location, then the part of the venue gets completely uh, waved off, because we don't have to bother about that. But in some cases, there might be bigger clients who might expect open programs for their entire group, to fix the venue. Now this might happen in terms of the outbound training programs, right, where a resort has to be booked or something else has to be conducted, and people need to be seated properly, they have to be housed properly, travel arrangements that need to be made. Now why this is important is because it will create a connection to the next element, that is a budget for the training program, right? So that venue and the other arrangements need to be completely understood well. The next and a very important point is whether any pre-reads need to be circulated before we initiate the training, before the first training program, the first training session is conducted. Now, this typically is applicable to all the technical trainings like your Lean Six Sigma, project management, and all. So I remember when I was in CIPLA, when I underwent the PMP prep course training, which was a mandate given by the management committee, we were told by the learning and development team well in advance, and we were given those thick PMBOK guides, and we were expected to read them at least once before we end up for the training program. And this was the requirement clearly given by the trainer. Yes, Mr. Arun?
Yeah, I would like to add here that giving this pre and post reading material works in multiple ways. First of all, that energy, that momentum builds up even before the program. And they're ready with what they already know and what they would like to know. Post reading material is also important because whatever they have learned, uh, it will be reinforced when they read a summary of something about that. So that's my thought. I would like to just confirm with you that would you agree to this or you have a different thought?
No, certainly. The pre-reads definitely help, because then, as you rightly said, it helps to build that kind of momentum to the whole program. And certainly, even the participants know what is to come in the training program in the future. But however, there could be some things which should not be discussed before. Like, for example, if I'm going to use the material and if I'm going to use the same pre-read, I might want to delete out something. Now, for example, let's say I am conducting something like conflict management, or something into behavioral or personality assessment based on the types. I will not give them the questionnaire because that is a psychometric assessment, right? So a psychometric assessment cannot be prepared. They have to answer quickly. So obviously, all this also has to be described clearly as to what to give the participants before and what is to be given just before or just on the day or during that hour of the training session. So yes, this is my feedback on this, right? And of course, the post-read materials definitely important in subjects where there is a lot of technicalities involved, like project management and all. But however, in my opinion, right now, as we know that the attention spans have really gone down, people who are really working will not end up reading thick materials. So instead of we overloading them right now, we should keep our reading materials crisp and short, precise yet concise. And then if they are interested, you can, those people who are interested in going for the heavier material, definitely you can give recommendations. This way, we are not trying to increase our inventory unnecessarily. Of course, now with the use of online materials, we don't really have to rely on stacking up those thick books. But however, if there is a requirement, there is physical material required, then at least we can try to be as lean as possible in our operations. Okay. Now coming to the next, that is a budget, where we are going to talk about the trainer's fees, the cost of other requirements. Now everything depends upon the previous ones, right? So in project management, I always say that these 10 elements, these whatever elements we have, I have mentioned 9 over here. Whatever elements are there, these are all interconnected. One thing disregarded, and there is going to be a big gap in that entire delivery effectiveness. And that's why I always tell that always anyone who wants to be a good project manager, who wants to be a good manager of whatever they're doing, they should always consider all these elements together. So coming to the budget, obviously our own remuneration. If we are going to travel to another city, then our requirements of lodging and boarding, our travel arrangements, are they going to make it, or we are supposed to spend out of our pockets? Now, all this thing we have to be very, very clear. And of course, if there is going to be a venue, any other requirement, then we definitely have to then communicate everything well in advance. Next, the schedule, including the duration and how the program will be spread out. Are we going to look at a 20-hour program in a couple of 3 days, that is 7 hours each with 1 hour extra? Or are we going to have 4 hours spread over 5 days? Or are we going to have 2 hours over 10 days? Or is it going to be spread across 4 months where we are giving all the information in a phased out manner? Now, the content development will also depend upon the schedule, because if we are supposed to deliver in small packets, then the nature of delivery, the nature of content will also be different, right? Then when the program will start. Now, often as a trainer, I have experienced that people will just come that, hey, we want to do something. We want you to please come up with your requirements. And when do you need this? Oh, can you do it day after tomorrow? Has this happened with all of us? It has happened with me. Now, here is a danger. And this is a message that I would like to give to all newbie trainers out here who are just starting their freelance journey, that in the pressure, we get too excited, but sometimes we lose out on the most important questions. Do not do this mistake, because asking the questions, no matter how much we are in a hurry, is important. Otherwise, the quality will be impacted, right? So here, I would like to share some things that, first of all, before we fix our date, okay, before we block our date for a particular trainer, please make sure that all the previous points have been covered. Okay, because what happens is, and this has happened with me several times before, that we are expected to block a date without having any confirmation. We just are hopeful and we just want to be giving, where we block a date and then the client drops off. Hasn't this happened with all of us at some other point of time in our journey? This is something which creates a lot of demotivation for the trainers. And believe me, as someone who's been through this, we obviously face these problems. And that's why, as a part of AOT, where we are trying to support the growth of new trainers also, this is very important. And unless and until there is a written confirmation where they try to have uh, your remuneration confirmed, Unless and until all these things are in place, please do not make any commitments. This has happened with some of my contacts as well, that they have gone and prepared everything, and then just one day before the training delivery, their remunerations are slashed by 40%. And these things happen in the industry, and that's the reason why we as trainers have to look at it in a project management fashion, where everything has to be agreed upon before. There has to be a consensus between the two parties. Next, we come on for the risks. These are obviously the challenges that one need to be prepared for. So risks of new participants or unexpected participants coming on time, or maybe risk of possibly uh, you facing some setbacks. So obviously the risk of we being punctual and all that is something which we know already. So time management comes with our training programs as well. And we also need to be punctual so that we can walk the talk. I'm not going to be focusing too much on this, but for mitigation, we should always keep all our tools ready. Having multiple presentations can work so that we can quickly modify if during the delivery, during the execution, if there is a challenge. Next is the quality, where we define quality as delivering what is expected, delivering what is required and what has been planned in the beginning. So obviously, to maintain that quality, we as trainers need to be agile to tackle any kind of challenges which happen during the delivery. But obviously, before we define the quality expectations, going back to those first elements, not stakeholders, defining the scope and all is very, very important. Because if our expectations are different than what is supposed to be really delivered, then there is a big gap, and the quality is definitely going to be not as per the mark in their minds, not in our minds, in their minds. And that's why asking questions is important. And last but not the least, the communications, clear expectations about all these 3 points that we discussed, all these previous points that we discussed, maintaining the records, trying to have the contracts as much as possible, where you try to put the responsibility of effectiveness equally on the client and the customer as well, in a way that they are expected to give us the right information at the right time so that we can do our jobs well. Now, in my experience, whenever there are these one-day programs, many companies may not be getting into the contract mode, because obviously their policy says that the contracts and the legal requirements come into picture if it's a longer duration program. Fair enough, but at least have everything on the email. And when I say specifically the email, because email is considered to be a formal part of the communications, please do not depend only on WhatsApp communications. That is not considered to be official. And there also, if someone says that, hey, just based on WhatsApp, try to do this, please do not accept that. Having everything formally on an email is necessary, with a proper response from them. At least get them to at least acknowledge the email and accept on record, right? So with this, just to wind up, the major assignments when you're trying to look at a training and development assignment as a project, scope of work, looking at the stakeholders is important. Draft your proposals accordingly, where you can put your thought process, you can give your suggestions and ask them for a feedback. You can ask them to give their own open points so that you can modulate that, and then you can start preparing the content. If you do not have the content ready, it's okay. At least have some written communication on scope so that you can start working on that. The outcomes, the deliverables, the effectiveness should be done on, it should be crafted only after your scope of work is ready. Then we speak about the pre-reads, the participants' preparations, and the all the prerequisites and all. The post-training assessments, if there are any forms that you need to circulate. Are there any MCQs that you need to take? Are there any quizzes that you need to conduct? Is there any on-the-job assessment that their managers need to do? So all those things need to be crafted out perfectly well before, and for that, your documentation, and most importantly, the terms and conditions are important. Here, I would like to also give some sort of importance to the triple constraints, that is the time, the cost, and the quality. try to give limited content in that limited time, but give quality and give a lot of examples so that they can relate to, rather than dumping too many concepts in a short span of time, because that is definitely not going to work well. This has been my experience in some of my training programs. And last but not the least, the copyright and the content ownership. Now, this is something very few people speak about, but most of the time in those legal agreements, there are these clauses which say that whatever content you develop for us will be our property and you cannot use it for somebody else. Now, in this case, we as people need to be very clear. If there is any particular concept that we have developed on our own, then we have to ensure that we communicate that, look, this is my concept, and I will be applying this with your examples. I will not use your examples, that's fine, but at least my particular concept, which is my very own development, should be waived off, should be excluded from this particular clause of ownership. And of course, the copyrights, definitely when you're preparing your own content materials, please make sure that you do the plagiarism check and all. And this is something which I came across when I was developing the project management concept, when I was trying to refer to the PMBOK guide, which is the gold standard handbook by the PMI. I first had to go on their site and look at the copyrights section, where if I'm going to take their materials as it is from them, then I have to pay the license fee to the PMI. And if I don't do that, then it can create a problem. So definitely, I had to switch my content in some other way where I'm not copying their content. I'm developing my own content for that. I'm not using that. Even if I'm a PMP, I will still be bound to pay some license fee. This was a learning lesson for me. So these are my insights for you. And we still are 10 minutes away from ending the session. So now I leave the discussion open to the participants out here and share your insights and your experiences on this.
Thank you, Mitakshara. And what I observe here is that any training assignment is like a project actually. The only difference generally is that when we say project management, the the vision comes as a large project, so many people involved. And here what happens that on one side there is maybe generally only one single trainer or a small training company, and the client side may be a large company. So that's the difference. But in principle, it was amazing to see that the principles are pretty similar, right? Uh, so I want to understand from you that is it just because this also is a project, that's the reason that all the principles look similar, or there is some other thought behind it?
Um, okay, so let me attempt to answer this. So like I said, in the beginning that I will just stop my share now, sir.
Sure.
Okay, so I would like to say that everything that we do ultimately has a goal, has an end goal. And to ensure that we successfully do this, successfully complete our training program, or in this case, in the training program, we have to be absolutely sure as to why we are doing it. Now, in project management, also, the first thing, there is a concept called the OKRs, or the objectives and the key results. So, there is an objective behind starting the project. And of course, now I did not cover these concepts because these were not that relevant. But even before the project is selected, there is a whole lot of analysis that goes behind it as to what is the benefit that we are going to derive out of it. What is the profit that the company is going to make? Is it going to be a direct benefit or is it going to be an enabling benefit? Now, all these things are considered whenever there are huge sanctions that are being made, whenever huge budgetary approvals that are being made. Now, in companies also, in large companies specifically, they will have a certain budget for the learning and development, right? And these budgets
Yes.
are clearly charted out in the previous year for the next financial
Yes.
year. Now, when we as people come in, we should also try to look at things from the client's perspective. Most of the time, the clients may not have a clear idea about what exactly they would want out of this. So here we should be acting as coaches And that's why I said that we should put on our coaching hats in that entire activity, where making that into a project which will be successful can be done by us. And there is where, if
Yeah,
we involve our stakeholders, it becomes important. And that's why I call this a project.
yeah. So here the terminology used is ROI, return on investment. And this is a question typically asked by our clients, that how will ensure or how will you measure the ROI? What's your suggestion? What should be the answer if my clients ask me that how are you going to measure the ROI, or what is going to be the ROI?
Okay. Now, let me take a very simple example. Let's say we are trying to take a session on time management. Now, obviously, the need has come up because people are not able to complete their tasks on time, right? The need has come up because possibly people are not effective enough because of various reasons in the hindsight. So
Mm,
obviously, our job is to first obviously understand their working patterns, understand the gaps first, and there is where the pre-training assessment, as Maya said, that she has to go and talk to people. She might go and talk to some representatives or the participants to understand what exactly are the pain points that they are facing, right? And then we can ask that, okay, fine, this is how you manage your time, this is how you delegate or you do yourself or schedule. You use the Eisenhower matrix here. And sometimes when you're planning your schedule ahead, if you want to allot some time to certain things and if you want to complete it in a punctual fashion, then there is something called the PERT, that is program evaluation and review technique. There is a formula to it, and that is how you can use to assign the time limits for every task, which is going to be sequential in fashion and on. But apart from that, it is also necessary for us to understand as to why there are several delays, because sometimes there may be a problem at a grassroots levels. So there we as people will also need to to do some root cause analysis, which is a very important quality tool. So all these things, if we do, we can definitely come up with certain solutions which are more suitable to that client, rather than just giving a plain vanilla training program of consisting of Eisenhower metrics and teaching them how to maintain the focus and all. Because people might actually be doing this, and if we don't address the root causes, then the participants are definitely going to get agitated.
yeah.
उनका
Thank
एग्जाम्पल
you.
रहेगा कि ये तो हम लोग पहले से ही कर रहे हैं, हमको नया क्या बताया. And there
Mm,
is where the feedback can get negative from the participants. And coming to post training assessments, if we have identified the root cause and then if we are trying to give some suggestions, then the post training assessments, we can give them some guidelines as to now, please monitor whether they are able to do more tasks in limited number of time. Have they been able to ask the right questions at all? Have they been able to cut down on the redundancy and repetition of tasks? If that is happening, then absolutely we can ask them for the feedback, maybe after a month or two. And then that is a true feedback which we can receive, whether whatever we have given or delivered has been taken up by the participants or not.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much on that. And one point that you mentioned, I want to re-emphasize on that: expect the unexpected. When you arrive there on the training hall, things may be quite different in many aspects. It could be quite unexpected and different than what you thought. I would like to give one example of what I experienced. Was that I planned to do a facilitation session, a training in a facilitative style. And my planning was that I will use a lot of chart paper, create groups, ask the members to write on the chart, and then have discussions. Now, the moment we reached there, I realized that it is a banquet of a five-star hotel, and they point blank refused the charts to be pasted on the wall. They said, "This is not allowed in our hotel. Do whatever you want to do. We can't allow that." And quickly we have to go to our plan B, that what to do and how to do it. And I think it is not just it may be the level of participants, it may be resources available, it may be slides not functioning, could be anything. So I think that point you raised is very valid, that be prepared for anything failing and your alternate plan should be ready.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. It has been wonderful, and I'm sure that people draw a lot of point to be included in their training career. And obviously, when they follow these thoughts, these rules, then they will be able to conduct their training better in a better way. And I think that is the objective of AOT, to help trainers to perform better, to get more business, to make more money, to build a better career. And I'm sure that this would be one small effort from our side to support them, help them, guide them. We would love to have the feedback from all the audience members, all the trainers, AOT members, non-members, everyone. And yes, non-members, I would like to appeal them to join AOT, make this momentum greater, bigger, and the more we are, the more we can support each other. So with that, thank you very much, and all the best to all the trainers, everyone in the fraternity.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to present this to all the people.
Yeah. Anything any of our audience would like to share?
We will take the feedback from the group later on.
Sure, sure. All right. So we have
Thank
some
you.
feedback coming up in the chat box.
Yes. So thank you, Dhaval. Thank you so much for your feedback out here. And let's hope you can apply some things from this particular session in your respective work. Believe me, I keep on learning everything every time with my experience. Every new client has got something to teach us, not just for the way we are supposed to deliver, but the way we are supposed to handle everything together. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. And let's meet next Wednesday, 9 p.m. once again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye.